Hey, what's up, guys? It's Elizabeth, the Minister of Beauty, and it is Tuesday, October the 7th. Actually, I think my cousin's birthday is today. I have to send him a text. Happy birthday. Anyway, um, hope you all are doing amazing. If you're new, welcome to, and if you are returning, welcome back to the channel. I am the Minister of Beauty, and I share the Bible. That's business inspiration, beauty, life, and enjoyment. So it's the 7th day of Vlogtober, and I just wanted to do a quick little vlog. Recently, this viral clip of Aisha Curry, who's married to the basketball player Steph Curry, and it just really came across as if she was complaining about her life, but she was talking about basically she never really saw herself married, having kids. Pretty much, she never really saw herself or dreamt of having the life that she currently has. But I want to say that the clips that are circulating, it does come across as if she's complaining about her life. And for a lot of people, it really doesn't give her space for grace. It really makes some people look at her like, side eye, like, girl, what do you have to complain about? Like, if you don't want to be with a man, then leave. Or, you know, some people are saying, oh, she should have had a whole phase. Or, literally things like that because she got with her now husband when she was younger. And just a lot of different things that I've seen. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and you know what they say about opinions. They're like, you know what? Everyone has them, and some of them stink. So, with that being said, I just wanted to just talk about it a little bit because I get where she's coming from. The context, I believe, and I could be wrong, but this is what I believe. I believe the context of what she was saying was when I was younger, I really had plans for my career and goals that I wanted to achieve and things that I wanted to strive for. And marriage and being a mommy and having all these kids that we have wasn't something that I saw on my list or wasn't something that I was planning for. So I don't believe she's saying she's ungrateful for what she currently has or she wishes that she has something different. And then there's some people that feels as if, well, she's been working on different things and none of those things have really worked out the way that she wanted them to, and she hasn't been as successful as she's wanted to be. So now she has these regrets that she's spewing right now. That could be possible too. I don't know. I don't know the girl, lady, woman. So I'm not trying to be offensive. I don't know her, like Mariah Carey said. So I could be wrong. But my feelings about it is that she's entitled to feel some sort of way when you get to a certain age. It's just natural that you look back over your life, you look back over the decisions that you've made, plans that you had for yourself, and when you see that some of those things that you planned for your life haven't worked out the way that you wanted them to, you do have some sort of regret, even if you are in a successful marriage. Like she Listen, I don't want to say the marriage is successful because who knows what goes on behind closed doors. So I will say, even if you are in a marriage with someone who is successful and financially you all are set, you're doing exceptionally well, doesn't mean that you don't have regrets about your life. Doesn't mean that the things that you plan for your life, just because this is something that worked out, you still don't have those goals and those dreams and those desires that you made for yourself, because the marriage is something that you are in together, and it's not supposed to be 50-50. You bring 50%, I bring 50%, and then we make 100. It's supposed to be two whole people coming together. That's rarely the case. So I'm not even sitting in judgment of marriages and relationships where people are not that, because we all are imperfect beings. So with that, I'm saying hardly anyone ever gets in a relationship, and especially even a marriage, with someone where you both are complete and perfect, and it's just like you both have 100% of what you need, and now you're coming together to just make it like 10x that. You have to work towards that because you're two different people and you're trying to build a life together. You have different thoughts of, about different things, different points of view, different opinions. You don't agree on everything. They do some things that gets on your nerves. All those different things happens, but it doesn't mean that you can't have a successful relationship. But I just wanted to say this. when I heard these clips, it just made me start to think about some of the things in my life. And I can remember being at a place, I remember when I started my business that I have now, I started it when I was the big 3-0. And at the time when I was starting it, it wasn't something that I always desired for my life. But when me and my husband, when we got together, we met in high school. I would never dream of being with anybody else but my best friend. He is my best friend. We have our child together. He is a man at this point. He's no longer a kid. But he is our child, but he's no longer a child. But those things that happen, those are things that, like, me getting pregnant was definitely not a plan when I was in high school. Definitely was not a plan. And I never saw that for myself. So I would never sit and say, oh, I always dreamed of becoming a teen mom and then getting married to the man that, got me pregnant. It didn't happen that way. It wasn't the plan. Even when I got pregnant, it wasn't like, oh, he got me pregnant, now that means he has to marry me. I never thought that way either. We still loved each other. We were still in a relationship. We had issues. It's life. You know what I mean? And we were young. But when he asked me to marry him, our son was, I think he was 3 when he asked me to marry him. We got married. Our son was 4 years old. So I'm saying, it was something, these are the things that happened in my life as we were growing together, and we have grown together. We have built a life together. Has everything been perfect in life? No, nothing's ever perfect in life. So you have your ups and your downs, and it hasn't been about infidelity, because that's the other thing too. A lot of people feel like, oh, it's always an issue with infidelity when it comes to, being in a relationship. No, it's just life stuff. It's not always that. But I just wanted to say that to say, once I had our son, I was on birth control, and I have been on birth control throughout our marriage. I was just so used to always taking it, and it wasn't a discussion that we ever had about maybe, we want to have another kid or have more kids. But I'll be honest with you, even though it wasn't a conversation that we had, that wasn't on my agenda either. I was still thinking about, what is it that I really want to do with the rest of my life while still being in a relationship and married to my husband and being a mother to our son. And things started working out. I was, researching different things. I was going to school. My husband was going to school. He was in the military. We did a lot of things in our careers and in our education to get to the point to where we are now. So having another baby just was not on my radar. And then by the time, I wouldn't even say it was even ever a time where we sat and talked about having kids. There may be, a few times here and there where my husband may have said, I want to have a little girl, or, but it wasn't like a conversation or discussion that we had where it was like we were going to plan to make that happen. It just wasn't a thing. And then over the years, my husband was getting all these dogs. My husband has so many dogs over the years. And sometimes I joke and I'll say, to compensate for not having a bunch of kids, my husband's had a lot of dogs. So, and I used to always say, I have one dog, because I had one dog years ago that he adopted from the SPCA that I didn't even know he did. I was at work, and one day he called me and said, I have a surprise for you at the house. And when I get home, there's this little scruffy furry mutt running around our house, and I'm like, what the heck is this? Because I didn't want a pet. I wasn't looking or longing for an animal. And that was his dog that he adopted. But the dog, his name was Leo. Still miss my little Leo. He chose me, and he got accustomed to me. So when that happened, then he started getting all these purebred Staffordshire Bull Terriers. And we have a YouTube channel for the dogs. I'll put a link to that channel in the description box so you can go and subscribe. I'm trying to be more regular over there with posting videos. But anyway, I often say that this was him compensating for us not having a bunch of kids. But, with that being said, I was just on birth control throughout the relationship and throughout the marriage after we had our son. And I just was like, once it got to the point where I got tired of taking birth control, and my husband, even though he would say, yeah, I'll get a vasectomy, I won't do that. So that never happened. And then I had fibroid tumors. So my gynecologist, who I had been seeing for years, he, when I told him, I said, look, I'm tired of taking these birth control pills. I tried the IUD. Oh my God. I'll do a separate video, I think, talking about that, because that was, I'll tell you about that later. But I couldn't do that IUD. I tried it for like a couple of days. But anyway, went back on the pill because it was what I was used to. It worked for me. Didn't have any slip ups, no, whatever. So it worked. And when I got tired of taking the pills, and then I had the fibroids, I got that handled and got my tubes tied. But when my gynecologist said, how, because he didn't deliver our son, he said, well, how old is your son? And at the time, I think our son was, that was 2019. So he was in his 20s. I can't remember how old he was at this point in time. And he said, you sure you don't want to have any more kids? And I said, our son is, and I said whatever age he was. He said, okay, yeah, I think you're good. So, yeah, I got my tubes tied. I was like, I am not having a baby and an adult child at the same time. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to be one of those people. No judgment to the ones who've done it, because I know a lot of people have, and it happens in life, especially if you were like myself and you got pregnant when you were young. If you want to have more kids later on in life, then that is the possibility. You're going to have an older child and a baby. You're going to have a child that can babysit for you. So you have a built-in babysitter or a built-in babysitter, or I don't know, it depends on how many kids you had. But that just was not the life I was trying to live. And also, I remember what I went through when I had our son, and in comparison to a lot of people's stories, mine really was not that bad. But the contractions that I did experience, especially being the age that I was, and I am not a lover of pain, I said, I'm not going through that anymore. I don't want to deal with that anymore. Y'all can keep that. And I had a natural birth too. Did not have a C-section. Our son was 7 pounds 3 ounces when he was born, and I was a teenager, and I was just small as I am, just like I was when I was high school. I've always been a small frame, short chick. That's just who I am. I get my small frame from my dad and my shortness from my mom. Anyway, I just was like, I don't want to go through that anymore. I do not want to have any more babies. But even with that, it wasn't something that I really thought about or we really had any discussions about either. So I don't have any regrets. I don't have any regrets about not having any more kids. My husband, sometimes he will say, I wish, we had a little girl. I want to have a little girl that looked like you or whatever. Chances of that happening was probably slim to none, because I have a lot of males in my family. My husband has 2 brothers, and he has a lot of male cousins. I'm not even taking any chances. Boy, bye. I'm not having 7 boys and then eventually having a girl at the 8th child. I'm just not, and yeah, I know now you can do things to choose the gender or whatever. I'm not playing guinea pig with my body. I just was not here for it. I didn't want to go through all of that, and it just didn't happen for me, and I don't have any regrets about that. Neither do I have any regrets about the one child that we do have, even though that was not planned. It wasn't in my plans. It happened. He's here. We love our son. He is a junior. He has his dad's name, and he is us, and I'm thankful that we are not grandparents. and I'm cool with that. So Aisha sharing on this podcast, and sometimes these podcasts, they're like, oh my God, the things some people talk about and share, it's like, did you really have to talk about that? Maybe if you felt like this is something you needed to talk about on a couch, on a sofa, maybe it should have been in private, in discretion, with your therapist, not with a podcast host sitting there with microphones. You have a mic, they have a mic, and they have a film crew, and then they're putting out these clips on social media, and then people are sitting here judging you. When it's with your therapist, it is confidential. Okay? But hey, maybe she doesn't care about this stuff going around. But she's getting a lot of criticism across social media, and I understand. But while I understand because the clips that have gone viral, it does make it seem as if she is complaining about the life that she has and that she's not really happy. There's some people that feel like they don't even think she really wants to be with a man. Like she really is longing to be with a woman. There's so many different diverse opinions about Aisha Curry right now because of those clips that have gone viral on social media. But when you listen to everything, it really is, in my opinion, her just talking about, I'm at this age right now. When I was in college, when I was in high school, these are the different things that I saw for myself. Not this, but I'm not saying that I'm not happy about this. But when you hear her say things like, he doesn't get me, he doesn't understand this about me, then it is kind of sounding like you're complaining. So that's why I'm just like, maybe it's something that she should not have talked about on a podcast. Just saying. I don't know. But anyway, guys, I just wanted to talk about that real quick. But for me, no regrets. The one child we have, cool with it. I don't have any longing to have any other kids. I'm not longing for grandchildren. Even my son, want to say maybe it was a couple of months ago, almost a couple of months ago, we were on the phone and we had a quick conversation, and he just said something along the lines of, would you be upset if I didn't have any kids? Because he's like, I don't want to have any kids with the wrong chick, and I'm not trying to live like a baby daddy lifestyle. And I said, I would be so not pressed if you did not decide to do that. But I'm glad that you're saying that it would be a decision that you have to make, not just a, oops, this is what happened. Because even if that is something that you have experienced in your life, it doesn't mean that you want the same thing for your children. It's cool, it's amazing, and a blessing when I feel like a cycle or a generational situation, some people call them curses, I'll say a generational situation is broken. Just because this has happened throughout the years doesn't mean that every single person has to fall in that same category. So just because his dad and his mom were young parents doesn't mean that he needed to be the same. And I'm so thankful for that, And then he said, hold up, Mom. How, because I said I'm too young to be a grandmother anyway. He said, hold up, how old was Nana? Because he calls my mom Nana. How old was Nana when you were pregnant with me? I said, listen, we ain't talking about me, all right? Anyway, I'm just saying, I wanted to just talk about that real quick and just say that it is okay if you're just looking over your life, because it's natural, and to see things that you desired to have happen in your life, to see that those are not things that happen in your life, but it's how you talk about it. People are going to judge regardless, but when you make certain statements and certain comments, then yeah, it does come across like you're complaining. And that's not something that I would ever do about my significant other in public. If there are issues, you better believe I'm talking to a therapist about it. I'm talking to someone in confidence about it. Not sitting in front of a microphone on a podcast with cameras rolling, being recorded and clipped and shared across social media. Because I'm quite sure she and Steph have had a conversation about this. I would venture to say that it would be kind of impossible if they did not, especially just kind of knowing some of the weirdness when it comes to Steph's parents. I believe his parents are divorced, and they married their next door neighbors or something like that. It's weird. I don't remember the story. You can look it up. It's all over Google. All you have to do is Google it. And if you haven't seen the clips of the video interview or the podcast, I'll put a clip to that in the description box so that you can check it out. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. Again, the baby and the marriage and your career and all those things, I understand it. I do, especially when you get to be a certain age. I don't know what it's like to be married to a person who's in the public eye and has had a successful career like her husband has. And I'm quite sure there's a lot of judgment that comes along with that. But I do believe she's craved attention just based on some of the things that I've seen over the years from her. And it is possible that she may be longing for something else. Who knows? like I said, I don't know. I'm not here vouching for the relationship that they have because it's none of my business. But I'm saying, just as a woman, and just having your own life and having dreams and aspirations that you've had years ago, and just seeing how your life is right now, and those things that you plan, they haven't been things that you've done. You could have regrets about that. There's nothing wrong with that. And just because you have those regrets doesn't mean that you are regretting what you currently have right now. And I'm not here to say that she's regretting her relationship, her marriage to Steph, and her children. I believe she's happy with that. But only time will tell. If they wind up getting a divorce, then I may come back and talk about this later. But anyway, guys, I just wanted to share my thoughts doing this vlog on Tuesday, October the 7th. Let me know your thoughts in the comments about Steph and Aisha and what Aisha had to say. Do you understand where she's coming from, or do you disagree with the comments that she made? Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video. And it is Tuesday, October the 7th, 7th day of Vlogtober. So until the next video, I hope and pray you all have an amazingly blessed and beautiful day.